Cherese Clark-Wilson, mother, wife, and powerhouse in PowerHeels, is a 2001 graduate of Paducah-Tillman High School. She received her pre-law degree in political science from the prestigious Spelman College. She went on to receive her Juris Doctorate degree from Georgia State University's Law College in 2012. Cherese is dually licensed in Georgia and Kentucky and is a founding partner of the Clark, Lowry, and Lumpkin law firm. Cherese is a trailblazer in the courtroom with over 1,000 cases under her belt. She has received many awards, recognitions, and accolades. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome attorney Cherese Clark-Wilson to the show. How's everybody doing? Listen, thank you so much for tuning in to Miss Dre. I have an awesome segment for you all today. I have the beautiful, dynamic Miss Cherese.
Hello. Thank you so much for this invite.
Thank you for joining us. Listen, y'all, I got one of the best here in ATL. Let's doing it. Yes, fighting. Fighting. So I just really appreciate it. I was so excited for you to come on, and so this is just one of my little dream come true because you are living my dream. You're living my dream. Anybody that knows me all throughout elementary school, middle, high school, they're like, what you want to be before? A lawyer.
Okay.
So listen, I may have to trade shoes with you. But listen, I thank you so much.
Thank you for the invite.
We're gonna go ahead and just jump right into this. So tell us a little bit about who Cherese Clark-Wilson is.
So Cherese Clark-Wilson actually has two sides. So you are getting the professional Clark, Lowry, and Lumpkin side,
Gotcha.
But then there are some people, very special people, that get to see that other side. So sometimes I like to call it like the little sophisticated ratchet side.
Gotcha.
So just being a chameleon in my different environments, learning how to adapt to just different circumstances, different situations, and it's just such a blessing to be able to be that vessel, to be able to do that, and give other women the encouragement to be who you are, be who you want to be, and then if people don't like it, then they can opt to peace out.
Yes, I appreciate that. When you're saying you have to, we get this side, but then other people get the other side, do you feel like you're code switching?
Sometimes I feel like I am, but I have become comfortable with it.
Gotcha.
I'm slowly starting to integrate that other side of me in the practice of law. What I have found is that being a lawyer, especially a family lawyer, my clients sincerely appreciate, and a lot of judges appreciate authenticity. They appreciate you showing up as your true self, but still being respectful, still having decorum, and still maintaining professionalism.
That is right.
So I think that while some may consider it, code switching and kind of playing a game, I look at it more as being just multifaceted and versatile.
Look, makes sense. So we can do that, and I think it's fitting because there are some arenas that you can be the laid back kind of chilled out Cherese.
Exactly.
But then there are times when you have to be attorney Clark.
Absolutely.
And you have to carry yourself as such.
Absolutely.
And so that makes sense. So don't listen, ladies. So don't feel bad or feel that you are, not being real because you have to make those adjustments in those settings. So that makes sense. So how long have you been practicing?
I have been practicing since 2011, and I graduated law school in 2012. So some people are like, well, how does that work?
Right.
So in Georgia, we have what's called Third Year Practice Act. And so I was a criminal investigator for Clayton County for quite a few years for the state of Georgia. And in my third year, I was able to practice law because I was in the public defender's office. So my very first legal case was a criminal case in front of Judge Albert Collier. In Clayton County, and I won. It was a bench trial for a criminal case. So I've been practicing technically since 2011, but I've been licensed since 2012.
2012. So you could practice under.
Exactly.
Because you were
exactly.
working
So long as there was my attorney in the room that I was assigned to, I was able to practice.
Gotcha. Okay. So now let's go back to, how did you get into law school, or how did you, find your way into being an attorney? Is that something you always said you wanted to
so
be?
So it's a funny story. So I may date myself, but when I was in 6th grade, the O.J. Simpson trial was happening.
Okay.
And I was so amazed that this lady's last name was Clark.
Gotcha.
Marsha Clark.
Oh
my God. She has
mine was Johnny Cochran. Okay. That was my man right there.
But it was the last name.
That
Clark thing.
Gotcha.
So I was like, what is this lady doing? This is just so interesting. So ever since then, I have wanted to be an attorney.
Wow.
And so my journey was a little bit atypical because a lot of people go from college and go straight into law school. However, I was the non-traditional student. I graduated from Spelman in 2005. Wow. I took some years off, and then I ended up having my daughter when I applied to law school in 2008. So I applied, found out I was expecting, and it was just kind of a whirlwind from there. I ended up delivering my daughter 2 months early. Okay. So she was a 2-pound preemie, but I still started school. A lot of people deterred me and said, it's going to be too hard. But I will say that my daughter is very astute in contracts because I would go to law school during the night and then come back up to NICU. So it just all worked out. And I have been blessed to be able to grow up with my daughter. Wow. A lot of people may not understand that, but, I think I had her when I was maybe 25. Gotcha. And just the growth. And her just being there, she was there for my swearing in. She's been there since I was studying. I was, pumping in class in the back. Wow. So it's been just such an amazing journey. And despite the pain that precipitated all of this, I found my purpose, and that was to be a family lawyer.
See, and she saw mommy doing it.
Exactly. Now she says she wants to be a lawyer. I told her, listen, I want you to be what you want to be. But she does enjoy going to court with me, and the judges welcome her. They sometimes let her go on the bench and bang the gavel. But it's really just a blessing to be in a position to be able to help people and also be some type of influencer role model for young girls.
Right. And I think one thing, because when we're just growing up and watching television, you don't see us.
Exactly.
You don't see us in the courtroom. You don't see, unless we're on the other side. You don't see us fighting for each other and different things of that nature. And so that's amazing that she gets to see mommy do it.
It's interesting because when I was up in the public defender's office, I would come in with my bag and, ready to try my case. And I remember a deputy came to me and said, so you're the defendant, right? I said, no, I'm actually the attorney.
Right.
I'm actually the attorney.
Right.
Esquire, please.
Exactly.
But with that being said, it's just, it's difficult as a woman. It's difficult as a minority woman because we're a double minority. So when you think about family lawyers, we're in this little box. And then when you think about Black women lawyers, we're in this little box. And then with Black women lawyers in family law, it's like, it's small of a box. So it's very important for me to be that representative for us because we are usually kind of stereotyped as one based on one. So.
Exactly. So now is it an even smaller box being you're from the South?
Yes. So I'm originally from Paducah, Kentucky. Okay. And it is about 5 exits, big or small, however you want to say. And it's interesting because when I go home, I'm one of the few, and when I say few, maybe there's maybe 1 or 2 Black female attorneys. I'm also licensed in Kentucky. Okay. Now I did that for 2 reasons. One, I still got some cousins that need me to have a bar card at all times.
Bingo.
But overall, I think it's very important for me to be able to pour back into the community that poured so much into me. Right. I can pour back in by, servicing clients, servicing the community, and actually upholding the law and understanding and teaching people what law is. One misconception when I was a criminal lawyer was that, I remember someone said to me, "Oh, you pay to get people off. You just get people off," and that's not the truth, right?
Right.
And when I took the oath and was sworn in as an attorney, I swore that I would uphold the Constitution. And that's what I do. And my clients will tell you, listen, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I will have to come to Jesus meetings, have a little touch with you. We'll cry in the car, but this is I will not go anything and do anything that's contrary to law.
Right. Wow, makes sense. So, listen, cousins,
don't do foolishness.
Right, don't do it. Just don't do it.
Just don't.
Just bingo. So, and so that was my thing growing up. My husband's uncle, once we got married, he was like, "You going to law school?" I said, "Yeah, that's the plan." He was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need you."
Yeah.
So I guess I'm gonna need to go ahead and get the studying, get right.
Go ahead and get the studying. But what's so interesting also is that once you get your law degree, there's so many doors you can walk through. You don't have to be a trial lawyer. So I'm a litigator, so I love going to court, jumping on top of tables and acting crazy. But there are some people that are more like, hey, I will prefer to, kind of be transactional. Let me do a little bit of contracts, paper pushing, a little bit like that. Yeah. So don't be discouraged in going. Gotcha. You've got this, right? So
I appreciate that.
You don't do this. We're going to speak into existence.
Yes, bring it. Because I want to jump on the table too.
Absolutely.
So I know you said this is a little difficult question. So what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
And the reason why it was so difficult was because I have so many things to tell her. The first one would be to be you because everybody's taken, right? Yes. I spent so many years trying to conform to what others wanted me to be or what I thought others wanted me to be for them. Right. That even after my divorce, I couldn't even tell you what I like to do.
Because you were so.
What do you like to do? I don't know. Like play with my daughter, go to school. I would tell definitely my 16-year-old self to just be you, and it's okay. You're not weird.
Right.
You're not weird. Right. You're smart. You're intelligent. You're beautiful, and you are enough.
Enough. Yes.
The other thing I would probably tell my 16-year-old self is that you are going to always find some type of purpose in the pain that you go through. So at each stage of my life, during traumatic things, the death of my father, I have learned so much about myself and taken that time to really just get that self-awareness, to be able to understand and hear my own voice. So that's what I tell a lot of my clients. Be careful who you let in the space right now, because you want to be able to hear your voice and not, oh, well, girl, when I was getting divorced, this is what happened. Or dude, and so being able to just understand that you have a voice, it's there. Just be quiet and listen.
Just listen. Wow. So, I think social media is brainwashing our youth so much into thinking get your bag by any means necessary,
right?
Or
and it's instantaneous, and you don't have to work for
that microwave type gratification.
Exactly. And what you don't understand is that people put on social media what they want you to see. They're not going to put the struggles and the tears and the crying and the counseling and the losing your mind behind closed doors. So that is just really such a big deal. Because I want especially young girls to understand there's Photoshop out there. So all the little girls out there, if you are trying to edit your pictures to look like a certain person, these are apps that are doing this. And then just even, people getting into the DMs and talking to it's a lot. It's a lot.
And I see it teaching. I teach elementary, and so I'm on the higher side. So I'm with the 5th graders that are getting ready to go to middle school. So all these hormones and so I'm just like, what in the world?
Yeah, it's a lot, and just for parents, be encouraged to stay nosy, stay involved, stay present, so that way you are able to protect your kids.
Where does privacy thing come from? I paid for it. It's mine too.
Exactly.
The phone.
Exactly.
The clothes, the book bag, everything. I need access to.
And to keep it honest, that stuff is used as evidence. I love going on people's social media pages and hitting print.
See?
Let me see what you're sharing. Oh, you sharing
something
about
look, telling my nephew, you want to ball out of control.
Exactly. So my favorite is when I have a child support case and somebody is really, really behind in child support. And, I had no money. Right. But you just bought a new car. Let's talk about this money you throwing in the club. Let's talk about these bottles you popping. How much was each bottle? Right? So just be very careful with all of that stuff because you never know.
All the
evidence. You never know. And it's never deleted.
It's a paper trail.
It's never deleted. So in my discovery, whenever I ask for different things, one of the things I ask for is an archive of your social media. And I tell you how to get it because you think you hit delete, it's not gone.
And so you can go back
You can go back and you have to get the archives. Even on Snapchat, that little thing that disappears.
So what about like the stories on Instagram?
All of it's saved. It's in an archive. So even though you may not visibly be able to see it in public, you can always get the archive. Got to do better.
Listen, just don't do it. Ball out of control inside. Look.
Exactly. Everything
by yourself
does not need to be posted.
It need to be
get
posted.
A journal.
Right.
Journaling is fun.
Look, get you a Polaroid.
And
you better hide that because they're gonna come get that.
Yep.
Wow. So, what is one of your pet peeves?
I think one of my pet peeves is being talked at and not talked to. Because I find that you get a whole lot more bees with honey than you do vinegar, especially with me. I love engaging, but when you start talking at me, I have a problem. And so sometimes that's when that second side of Cherese comes up, and that's usually the one that's more visible in court sometimes when that happens.
I'm gonna have to come visit you.
Oh, it's an experience. It's fun.
I've heard. So I need to listen. Spring break. I need to come see. Like, what's on your calendar so I can come.
Well, and actually next week we have so many trials going on. So, but a lot of times we're on Zoom now. So that has been one of the benefits of I guess the pandemic is being able to practice remotely using electronic files and things like that.
So when it's on Zoom, like it's closed out for the public?
No. So Georgia law and the Constitution allows all hearings to be open. So that's why the courts are allowing you to view it online. So they'll stream it and live stream it to be in conformance with the Constitution.
Oh, wow. And so anybody can just pop on?
Anybody can just pop on.
Oh, my goodness. Look, look, your business ain't your business.
Exactly.
When it comes to Georgia courts.
Exactly.
So anybody can access it. Wow. Yep. So growing up, or even now, who's your role model?
I would definitely say, like, just knee-jerk is my mom.
Yep.
My mom's tenacity, my mom's strength. I would also say, in hindsight, my dad. He passed away in October of 21. And I admire him for his hustle. And so I've always wondered, like, why am I always so hyper and doing all this stuff and have all these businesses? I think that's my daddy coming out. From your dad. And so I think that I definitely find that he is a role model. And I also find that my daughter is a role model, but kind of like in reverse. The way that she just kind of moves and the way that she thinks, the way her brain works, she's my role model. And learning how to think about things from a different perspective. She's very artsy, and so I find myself really kind of leaning to her for a lot of creativity things and us engaging in that way. A lot of my girlfriends, we call ourselves like a little crew, just about 4 of us, and I find them to be role models because I always tell them, y'all possess something that I don't. In any and every facet. One is patience, one is peace, one is tolerance, and a lot of that stuff I pull from them in order to be able to sustain. And I always tell young girls and even grown women, you need to be around people that elevate you, that you can pull from and that aren't sucking from you.
Gotcha.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Listen, that was somebody was asking me, like, who do you look up to? And I'm just like, oh, I don't even know. Yeah. Like I said before, like Johnny Carson was somebody, like I got his book when I was straight out of high school. I was like, okay, I got to read this. And so like that was somebody that I kind of aspired to, just kind of model after. But then now it's like, I don't know.
But I mean, then it changes, it evolves, so as I've become seasoned, not old, seasoned in my practice, now I'm looking to a lot of my colleagues as role models. Being able to just, shoot them a text, hey, do you have this? Or, have you thought about this? Being able to bounce ideas off of different women that look like me, right? Different judges, watching and seeing people that look like me on the bench for the judicial positions. So I do have a lot of role models, but I'll say that my core is who I've already mentioned.
Right. So what was the process of coming to Clark-Wilson.
So, I, along with my law partners, we were working at a firm. And unbeknownst to us, we all kind of quit at the same time. And I had started my own firm on the Georgia Secretary of Business website. It was going to be Clark and Associates, and I had all these big dreams. And so there was a rumor going around, hey, I think that they're trying to form a firm. And so we heard the rumor, and was just like, that might not be a bad idea. Let's talk about it.
So when all three of y'all left,
yes,
they thought y'all were so they
and so they kind of we appreciate it. Right. They kind of planted that seed, and so just that little mustard seed of faith. By the end of the month of July of 2015, Clark Larry-Lumpkin was born. Wow, look at that. So my law partners are also two people, and I'm not gonna get teary-eyed, but they are two women that exhibit and exude so much of everything that this is why our partnership works. Right. So my law partner Janine, she's like a whiz in spreadsheets and just everything. My law partner Naomi, she's a worker bee. I mean, if it needs to get done, she's in there doing it. I'm the social little butterfly that can, probably talk to anybody or do anything. And just the fact that the three of us could gel to make this happen is just, it's amazing. Wow. It's amazing. Wow. And I think that we all did it before we were 40.
Look. Won't he do it?
Listen, won't he?
That's what it is. So now the firm that you all left from, was it a family?
It was a family law firm. So that was, I think, the introduction to family law for all of us. So we all did that. Sometimes a lot of judges refer to us as the Wolf Pack, the women only law firm, and it's not by choice. It's just men don't ever apply. But maybe one day we'll sprinkle some testosterone.
That's how I was wondering.
Through the office. But overall, it's just the work environment. It's amazing. I couldn't ask for better staff, and we are like a family. And I know that sounds really cliche, but like we are truly like a family.
And it's, I wouldn't say hard, but you have some challenges when you have all females.
And typically you would, right? Or you would think that, but like we don't disagree about a lot. Now I will say, listen, so we have different extremes. Usually I'm on one extreme. Usually Janine is on another extreme, and then Naomi kind of keeps us in the middle. But baby, when you get all three of us together and we all on that side, it's a bad day for whoever's on
the other side. See, look, and that makes for good.
Exactly.
A good team.
Yeah.
So listen, when you need them, hopefully you won't, but if you do.
Hopefully you won't, but in the instance that you do.
Yes. Give them a call because they got you. All three of them together. Yes. And I appreciate that because, we're celebrating Women's History Month, and when I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's all women. It is all women, all throughout.
All ethnicities, right? Wow. So it's like we're just the melting pot of our area of practice in family law.
And it brings, I guess, a different point of view, like when you have different clients. And so you can get this point of view, you can get this side, and you can relate to them. So, wow. That's
such a blessing.
I think that's a blessing.
Listen, it's nothing but a blessing. It really is.
Wow, to have that.
I couldn't do it without them. They're like literally like my right and left foot.
Wow. So did you all meet before you all were working at that
So funny enough, we all went to Georgia State Law School. Okay. Naomi was a little bit behind Janine and I. I think Janine and I graduated together, but I think the first time I had a really in-depth conversation with Janine was when we were doing the bar exam. And we just ended up meeting outside, and I was talking to her, and then we just all kind of blossomed and grew from there. And then we all ended up at the same law firm. And then we all ended up quitting at the same time. So, that was nothing but God.
Nothing but God. Destiny. Just lining it right up.
Yep.
He will direct your path.
And I thought, because I didn't want to be a family lawyer. I wanted to be this kick butt criminal lawyer, Annalise Keaton, How to Get Away with Murder. Yeah. I'm about to be on TV.
Before it was...
Exactly. And so, but then the trajectory of my life changed to the point where it brought me to family law, and I had found my niche.
Wow. Look, and I'm not gonna, but I want to be a criminal attorney, and now being a teacher, and it's like, well, maybe I need to be.
But there's so many things you can do. Education law. Dealing with 504 plans, IEPs.
Look, and that's my area. I'm a special ed teacher.
Exactly.
So those IEPs.
So never foreclose it. Never ever foreclose what God has for you. And He is still putting on your heart.
Look, every day I find somebody that's, you doing what?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I'm like, all right, Lord. But you know what else that is? Student loans.
Well, no comment. I'm still waiting on the Supreme Court to tell me
exactly. What y'all waiting on? Just go ahead and
exactly. But I will say that it's worth it. It's definitely worth it to even just have the knowledge and the wherewithal on how to navigate the judicial system, the court system, and even just some of the unnecessary words that we use. You know, rule nisi. Just tell me it's a trial hearing or a trial notice or something. So don't give up.
Wherewithal. What sort? Like
exactly.
Because like
girl, my husband gets on to me all the time. He's like, just talk to me.
Just talk.
I am not a client, so I have to sometimes remember not to lawyer my husband.
Yes,
hey,
please don't lawyer him. How can we empower those that feel like they just are done? Like, you know, just what are some things that we can do just to empower others to keep pushing?
Well, I think that what you become what you take in. So if you're looking at social media and you're looking at things that tend to give the negative spin to everything, it's almost like you are what you eat, right? Continuing to put great women in the forefront, putting people that have goals, accomplishing goals out in the forefront, feeding your mind and just being that constant person that wants to learn. That is something that a lot of people, not just women, kind of get comfortable with. Like they don't want to learn anything. Oh, I don't feel like reading. I don't feel like going back to school. Yeah. But it is so worth it. So I think that for people that are struggling with that motivation, I believe that may be what we're talking about. It's just look around you. You know, Google some, Black women attorneys. Google some Black female doctors. Get out and do these different community activities. Right. Getting involved in different social programs. You know, GABWA, the Georgia Association for Black Women Attorneys, Gate City Bar. There are just so many different organizations for so many different areas. And then also just being eager to continue to learn and how you can effectuate change. One thing I always tell little girls is that if you see something happening and you see something that somebody's doing, figure out how you can make it better. That's not copying, that's enhancement.
Enhancing, yes.
Exactly. So, just thinking about it from that perspective.
Gotcha. And one thing, just talking to you, like some of those areas or arenas you don't hear about. Exactly. We don't tell the kids, or even as a teacher, we don't expose them to those different arenas. So having somebody that comes from the professional side to show the kids, like, okay, we can look at this. Get off Instagram, get off TikTok.
You are more than a football player. You are more than a basketball player. You can be a technical engineer. You can do all these different things. And I think that it's a call to action for professionals, honestly, to give back and pour back into the community. We need to be out here talking to the kids about school things. We need to be doing the different assemblies and functions. Yes. We need to be out here educating the kids on how do you take those steps. What happens when mom doesn't have money? Maybe there's FAFSA. Right? And so a lot of people don't take the time. Now, especially when I was growing up, it didn't seem like it was a lot of that going on, but now I'm seeing it more in the media. I'm seeing a lot of different companies, celebrities, and people pushing HBCUs. Pushing it out. So I think that is how we start generating the excitement, the motivation, and just that to be able to do more.
Yeah. And then one thing I will say, and I know we talked about that, one thing that the pandemic created was for a lot of things to be virtual. And so we had our career week last week and we had virtual, and I should have called you.
Oh, it's all right. Just call me next time.
Next time.
I'm available.
But and I wish that more, like you said, more people would get involved because you have the kids there lost.
I know. And so one of the things, whenever I go into schools, there a lot of times I do this presentation. It's called Exhibit A. And so I have the kids to pull out their cell phones and take selfies. I'm like, y'all just have 10 seconds, just snap away. I mean, they jumping on the desk and throwing up signs and stuff. And so then I tell them that you become an exhibit, and then I explain to them what their freedom of speech means, what their rights actually are. You can't just say and do anything, right? Teaching them how to basically present themselves and how much information can actually be used against you, and you might not even realize it. You know, you may have a red cup. What does everybody think a red cup is? You could have had some water in it, but if you're photographed out at a barbecue with a red cup, you allow people to make the assumptions about what it is that's in that cup.
What's in the cup. And what about as far as the birds of a feather flock together?
Yeah, you have to, again, that goes back to the elevating, you know, surround yourself with people that are better than you. My law partners are better than me in so many ways. My girlfriends, they're just, you know, even my husband is better than me in so many regards, which is why we complement each other so well. So just being humble enough to realize, listen, I'm not all that. I can learn a little bit. I have a few weaknesses and flaws, but then when you surround yourself with people that fill in those gaps for you, you learn how to be better.
Wow. So look, we're going to have to get my principal to have this special segment for Miss Clark to come through.
Happy to
because I know that the students would love you. They would love that. So yeah, we're gonna have to get that.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. What advice do you give your daughter when she has those? I would say just in general.
You know, so it's funny because when I look at her, it's like I feel like I'm talking to myself. She acts like me. Some people say she looks like me, but I've had to question if I'm even her mom. No. I don't think she looks like me. But anyway, but just to keep pushing, you know, when we're talking about peer pressure, being able to get down to her level and explain certain things. So it was funny the other day. My daughter was like, Mom, you were perfect. And I was like, baby, what kind of grades do you think I had? And she was like, all A's. All A's. And I was like, girl, if you only knew. So I will not admit that I'm a hoarder. We won't keep that between us and them.
Right.
But I hoarded and kept all of my high school transcripts.
Wow.
And so I pulled them out and I showed them to her. She was blown away. I had a C in calculus. I had a D in one class my senior year. I was kicking it hard. But then I showed her, and then I pulled out all of the scholarships that I got, and I just started making it rain scholarship money. And so for her to be able to see that from a personal perspective, and like, well, Mom, like you weren't perfect. It's okay not to be perfect.
Right.
I am perfectly imperfect, and I'm fine with that.
Exactly. How God made you.
Exactly.
And planned for you to be. Well, look at that. You're not a hoarder. I got them same high school in my attic.
Well, you tell my husband that, please. Say it one time for the people in the back.
Okay. I even got middle school tardy slip.
Oh my gosh.
It's bad. But I did try to compose it into one box.
Okay. So now I do have one box or two.
1.5.
Yeah, sure. 1.5.
What was your worst case?
Ooh. My worst case is any abuse case or sex crime case, mistreatment of children. Those really kind of claw at my stomach a little bit. Which is why I decided that I did want to do guardian ad litem work, which means I do represent children. So when you have kids involved in custody cases where mom and dad are fighting over custody, sometimes judges will appoint me in different counties to represent the best interests of children. So that is kind of how I'm trying to balance that. But those are kind of the worst cases. When I was a death penalty investigator, those were like the worst of the worst. And I was pregnant with my daughter, having to look at crime scene photos, and was just like, ugh, enough is enough. And that's when I transitioned to a different area.
Yeah, that would most definitely make you.
Yes.
So how long did you have to do that?
I was a criminal investigator for, I want to say 4 years. So it was a lot emotionally, a lot mentally. And then they say, you know, going from criminal law to family law is the worst people on their best behavior. But then in family law, you get the best people on their worst behavior. But I find this work that I'm doing now more fulfilling, representing moms, dads, and children in family law.
So how old would a child have to be in order for you to be able to represent them?
They can be as young as a week old. A court may appoint me to, you know, go and take a look at the house and take a look at, you know, things are definitely, you know, in order with respect to the different custody factors of OCGA 1993. So it can be as young as, you know, baby, and it can be as old as someone about to turn 18.
Wow. So, and that's basically up to the judge's discretion.
Exactly.
They want to.
And sometimes the parties will just be like, listen, we're not going to agree on custody, so we'll just have somebody come in and be a guardian.
Oh, okay. So they can request.
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense. See, just stuff we didn't know. We just stuff that we need to
we need this information. Mm-hmm. So to be able to, just to make those best decisions, especially for the kids. That's been always my thing. Like, what is best for the children, and making sure. And I know my sister would appreciate this question. What kind of rights do grandparents have?
Oh, in Georgia, we have it going on when it comes to grandparent visitation rights. And now, I want to say it was maybe in 2020 or 2019, we now have what's called the equitable caregiver statute. Mm-hmm. And what that means is that not only can family like grandma, auntie, get custody, now basically anybody that can come in court and prove, a certain number of things, certain factors, write an affidavit about it, be able to prove and get what's called adjudicated, meaning named as an equitable caregiver. So now that even almost gives step parents rights. Oh, whereas a lot of people weren't able to do that. And, it can be, a school teacher. If you find that, you are now taking a child in, you're financially supporting the child, and now you are the one that's responsible, you can even now apply for custody for basically complete strangers. But of course, at the end of the day, you have certain things you have to prove, but now equitable caregiver just kind of opens up that custody standing for other people.
How much of the child say so goes into that? Like,
that's a really good question. So as a guardian, I talk to all kids, but when I am representing mom or dad, I typically don't talk to the children. But in Georgia, if a child is 14 or older, they can make what's called an election. Now, the statute doesn't say that the kids have to write an affidavit, which a lot of people do. Right. It can be something that's verbal. Yeah. It can be, hey, I really love mom, I really love dad, but I would really like to live with mom. Mm-hmm. Some judges in Georgia don't like those because it seems like it puts a lot of pressure on children. Mm-hmm. But others, people still do it. So, but at the age of 14 is typically where children can elect who they want to live with. Now, what they don't realize is that you're stuck for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So while it might be glitter and gold over at, whichever parent's house, you stuck for 2 years.
For 2 years.
For 2 years.
If you try to be spiteful or whatever the case might be. Well, look, I told my son, look, you going with your dad. He was like, well, who's going to help me with my homework?
Just zoom in. Zoom in.
But yeah, wow, that's amazing. And it's crazy because I have a friend who has a friend out in Mississippi, and they don't have the same laws.
Yeah, so each state is different.
That is
and so that's why it's important for attorneys to do what are called CLEs, continuing legal education, because laws change every day, every single day. And it could be a slip of a word from shall or may. There's something that's discretionary, then there's something that's mandatory, right? So that's why it's really important for attorneys. And if you are going to court, hire somebody. Don't go in there by yourself. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that said, he who represents himself has a fool for a client. Don't do it.
I remember that.
Don't do it. And then you're going to come to me and you're going to have to pay me more to fix it. Just hire somebody from out the gate. So that way you are not stuck with certain things.
So when the laws change, how are you, like, are all the attorneys notified? Do you have like this database that you have to go into and look?
You actually have to do your own due diligence and research and continuing to go to these different conferences, case law updates so that you know. And then just being able to socialize and network with other attorneys and just other professionals. You just learn so much. And also never burning bridges, you might have to go back across. Because if somebody knows something and you want to kind of tap into that resource, you have to be very careful how you treat people.
Because they might
especially your colleagues. And so that's what makes it makes lawyering very unique. Because if you act crazy with an opposing counsel, remember that's your colleague and you might need a favor. Like, for instance, if I'm sick and I need you to give me a continuance, but I treated you like crap the other day, I ain't gonna forget that.
And that's one thing because I did intern at the DeKalb County Solicitor's Office, and just in the elevator, and I'm just like, y'all on two different sides, and they're like, yeah, we about to go get breakfast and here, blah blah blah. Exactly. And it's like, and I try to tell my family, they're human.
Yes.
And they have to work together regardless. I mean, of course, if you're paying this attorney, he has your best interest at heart. But they still have to cross paths.
You still have to be cordial. You still have to be respectful. I can still go to lunch with you and then slaughter you at lunch after cross-examination. And we will still go get a drink afterwards. words. No shade, no harm. It's all good. Honestly, you want an attorney like that. You don't want an attorney that's always standoffish and doesn't really know a lot of people, doesn't really talk to people, because you don't learn. They say that good lawyers know the law, great ones know the judges. Open your mouth and talk to these people. Then you start kind of understanding what they like, what they don't like.
Right. I know we had a case with my daughter, and then the attorney was like, "Yeah, the judge has a soft spot for dogs." And so look, we put that up.
Don't put a picture of your daughter with a dog, right? In an exhibit. There you go.
You gotta know.
It makes a difference. It makes a difference.
What tugs on them? Wow. Listen, when you have to prepare for a case, how much of the work you have to do when you can allow somebody, your paralegal, to do?
So the way that the structure is you have the partners, then you have an associate attorney, and then I have a paralegal. So we all have different duties, but nothing leaves the doors of Clark, Flowery, and Lumpkin until one of the partners looks at it. But when it comes to research, identifying legal issues, my staff is so good that they can sometimes even identify an issue. But when it comes to the research and putting the arguments together and giving legal advice, that's the big part. Only attorneys can give legal advice. Right. So when people call the office like, hey, paralegal, can you tell me this? And it's like, we're not being ugly, but unfortunately you have to talk to an attorney. So I do spend a lot of time researching different issues. Trying to figure out how to create different arguments, whether it's public policy argument, and we call those common sense arguments, or by law. So one of my mentors told me before, if your facts are bad, argue law. If the law is bad, argue the facts. So you got to figure it out. And then when both of them are not on your side, you got to dismiss the case. So, we kind of live by that. But I do have wonderful staff that really help. And so like if I'm in a trial or something and I have another hearing going on, either one of my law partners will cover it or my associate will cover it. So it's like we literally tag team everything.
Gotcha. One quick thing I wanted to ask, what's the process? I call your office. Okay, my husband was cheating on me and I'm finna divorce him. What's my process?
So the process is first that we have to do a conflict check to make sure your husband hasn't called the office to get a consult. Because even just calling an attorney creates what's called a conflict of interest. Have you ever seen The Sopranos? Yeah. Have you ever seen The Sopranos? Well, actually, if I do the consult. But in The Sopranos, I think that one of the characters did a consult with every divorce attorney in New York. So that way his wife couldn't find an attorney. And so that's what happened. So anyway, you do a conflict check. We schedule you for a consultation. It can be by Zoom. It can be over the phone. We're starting to kind of open back up a little bit for in-person. And then you decide if you want to retain. Then after that, we get going. We file the case and get everything going.
So how long would it take, once I retain you, how long does it take before we go to trial or go to court before we have to go to court?
So pre-COVID was a little bit different, but now that COVID has happened, the court system is so backed up that it's taking a little bit longer getting onto calendars. And then because I'm a family lawyer, that's civil law. And so criminal cases always bump civil cases because you got to think about it. Someone's liberty is at stake. Somebody's in jail. Those tend to take precedence over the civil cases. So it could take long. Or you can always go the uncontested route and make that a really, really short situation for 31 days. But I know we're only talking about it in the divorce context, but we do way more than that when it comes to family law. We're dealing with international kidnapping cases. We are dealing with protective orders, restraining orders, stalking orders. I mean, it's just a complete litany of things, modifications of child support, alimony, a lot of financial division of assets. So it encompasses a whole lot more than just doing divorce cases, because you got to think, they call us counselors at law for something. So I now wear the hat of not only your attorney, but I'm your counselor. That's why I tell people, listen, I'm way too expensive for you to continue to talk to me for mental health situations. I will, and I will help coach you. But at the end of the day, it is always wise to, especially when you're going through this kind of litigation, to have that mental health support, because you got to think we're dealing with two things that people kill over: kids and money, right? So you have to proceed with caution.
So now, does domestic violence, does that go into the criminal area, or is that still with you?
That's a great question. It's quasi. So it can be, you can get a criminal case for a domestic violence situation, but then someone can also file a civil temporary protective order against you. And so that's how sometimes it ends up kind of playing both areas.
Wow.
And then recently, I had a case where a judge held one of the other parties in criminal contempt and civil contempt. So the party owed money, but because it wasn't paid, then now the person has to be incarcerated on the criminal contempt side, and then has to still take care of the financial piece on the civil side. So yeah,
wow.
So it's important to get an attorney that kind of understands how to navigate both of those
areas. Because I'm thinking about with O.J. Simpson, because he got off on the criminal,
but then with the civil case,
he had to.
But you got to think those are two different standards of proof
levels.
Exactly. So one's reasonable doubt. That's like the highest thing, beyond a reasonable doubt. But then when you're dealing with civil, by preponderance of the evidence, yep. So 51%, just
that little,
versus 49%. Just that little can tip the scale and make the outcomes look very different in a civil and criminal case.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, yes. Yeah. Look, you got a lot to teach. I'm gonna have to come up here.
Yes,
I got to learn.
Yes,
I got to learn. It's just
and I will come back if you want legal tips or whatever. Just do not hesitate to reach out.
Oh, I appreciate that. Listen, somebody that's doing it and don't mind helping. You can't get that with a stick. Not at all. I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
That this is such a blessing. All right, so as I said before, if you need somebody,
call us
to fight for you. They got your back.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much. I have learned so much in this time. Oh, thank you.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Look, I'm going to have to call you when I got questions. Listen, guys, please remember to like, share, hit the bell, and subscribe, and follow me on The Real Mystery on Instagram. And I will see you next time.
Yes, and feel free to Google us, Clark, Lowry, and Lumpkin.
Oh, yeah.
You can definitely like our Instagram, Facebook.
Clark, Lowry, and Lumpkin.
CLLFamilyLaw.com.
Yes, all right.
Peace. Thank you.
We're coming back. Yeah.